Have you ever thought, I wish I could get along better with that coworker, or, I need to spend more time with my family, with my friends, and, I wish we could get a better relationship in our marriage. Well, if you ever thought those thoughts, stay with us. We're about to consider some profound ideas that will impact your health and your life. It's all part of Health is More Than Healthcare. Join us right now.
Welcome to Health is More Than Healthcare with Greg Anderson. Join us for a fascinating exploration of the complete definition of health and well-being. It's all about our role as active participants in our health and what we can do to get well and stay well. Now, meet our guide and coach, Greg Anderson, 24-year survivor of stage 4 lung cancer, best-selling author of 11 books, and founder of the Cancer Recovery Foundation group of charities. He's an international award-winning authority on wellness who practices what he preaches. Please welcome Greg Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm so pleased that you're here today. I'm so pleased that you're joining us. And to our viewers, it's just an honor to be with you in your home. And we're in for a real treat here. I want you to join us and just consider yourself part of this group who's assembled here. We're going to talk in this segment about social well-being, relationships. And, this is really part of a larger picture that we've been exploring in a series of programs called Health is More Than Healthcare. And I believe it's part of our work to really support one another. That's part of what a relationship is about. And in this group, as well as our viewers who are joining us from around the world, this is all about this social support joining together in a quest, not only for better health, but I dare say for a better, fuller, richer, more complete life. That's really what this is all about. I've said before, and I'll say it again, there's only 3 simple ground rules here. And the first one is really pretty simple. Don't listen to me. Think with me. Think with me. There's some profound ideas here that nothing new, but they are ideas that have been lost in a world of medical technology. We're going to bring those out and examine those. Number 2, I see some of you've got pen, paper, ready to take a note. Don't take notes about what I say. Take notes about what you think and how you process what you're hearing. That's the important point. It's you. And that's the third point, really. This is not about me. Hear our hearts. It's about you and trying to do our best to help you understand how you can improve your health and your life. So let's get underway with social well-being, a look at our relationships. I always like to start with a little humor, and absolutely true story. We do a variety of work with a number of people, and we were one time at an assisted living community where they were having an anniversary celebration. And it was this couple, the resident couple who lived there, it was their 66th wedding anniversary. Now, I know that that's not a record, but that's 66 years. And they were having a celebration. And so we got done with our meetings, and they invited us to join in. And we joined in kind of at the height of the whole thing, where they had set it up. Little paper cups, about half filled with champagne, were given to maybe 200 guests who were gathered there. And they had the anniversary couple up on this stage. They were seated there. And the idea was the groom was going to toast his bride of 66 years. Got the setup? There it is. So everybody has the cup. They hand the microphone to the groom. Now, gentlemen, I suppose after we're married 66 years, we can say anything we want to our wives, right? Not in our household. I don't know about you. Of all the things this gentleman could have chosen to say, he takes the microphone, the cup, and he reaches down and he says, "My dear, after 66 years of marriage, You are tried and true. Everybody kind of thought, what is that? You kind of scratch your head. Why would he choose those words? She is a little hard of hearing. She says, what? He takes the microphone again, the cup. He says, I say, after 66 years of marriage, you are tried and true. So help me. She grabbed that microphone from him. She said, after 66 years of marriage, I'm tired of you too. So you got to be careful of the sort of social support you're receiving. Oh, goodness. The thing I want you to take away from this today is that health does include things like social support. We talked briefly about our health circles, and that's the idea that our health is influenced by many factors. It's more than health care. Health care has to do with doctors and hospitals and the providers, and it has a whole lot more than that to do than just health care financing. And we go around the world, and we're in 6 countries at this time, and the debate is the same wherever. It's the bottom 2 parts of those circles. It's the health care payers, whether that's the government or insurance, who's trying to tell the health care providers to do 2 things, essentially, to lower costs and raise quality. And who's left out? It's the time. Health takes second chair in health care way too often. And what we're trying to talk about here is that there are many things you and I can do as patients to improve our health. Briefly again, I come to this after being told 24 plus years ago that I was about to die. I had metastatic lung cancer. A surgeon told me he thought I had 30 days to live in December of '84. Well, what do you do? We went searching for people, and it had turned into a lifetime. It turned into a mission for us. We searched for people who had lived. And over the years we've developed, when I say we, my wife and I, and there's part of this, and there's a whole group of wonderful people that we work with around the globe who've collaborated in putting together what we call this wellness pyramid. And you'll see that here. The idea is that health truly is multidimensional. The survivors taught us these empowering stories. Yes, you use medicine. We're not saying not to use medicine, but you do so much more. You focus on the nutritional aspects. The social aspects that we're going to talk about right now are very important. Also, in terms of intellectual well-being, the whole idea of mind-body is very important to many, many people. And I'm assuming that most people do, at some point, believe that mind affects body. We believe it has a profound effect. Also, the sense of purpose, that's the vocational well-being. There's meaning to life, and then finally, spiritual. The message I want everybody to focus on is that health is a whole lot more than sitting in the doctor's office or going to the hospital. It really takes place, and it's really, if you will, manufactured on a day-to-day basis by you and me. This was driven home. We have this yellow rope out here, and again, I'll just briefly say this is about a representative of a seminar I attended, where indeed the seminar was put on by a tightrope walker, and he taught a profound lesson on focus. Focus. He would say, put all your focus on the next foot of the rope, the next step. And he talked about the last thing you want to do. You don't want to look at the ground. You don't want to think about the wind, the sound. You want to focus what? On the next step. Focus, focus, focus. And we all have these as a symbol. We all have these as a symbol. If you want to hold those up, just as a reminder, to help us what? Focus, focus. What's it have to do with health care? Everything, everything. If you take nothing else away from this series, take away this. Focus on creating wellness in your life. It is not enough to just fight the illness. We also have to create the wellness. And one of the best ways that we can do that is to look at our relationships. Our relationships. I like this symbol. brought this home as a gift one time to my wife some years ago and our daughter. And it's really a symbol of how interconnected we are with one another. Do you believe that? Do you perceive that? You know, no man really is an island. And we really do need one another in profound ways. So my comment is, let's for a moment look through the lens of our relationships and see how that impacts our health. There's one thing I would have you take away from this. It would be this thought. Our relationships are a mirror of ourselves. Let me repeat that. Our relationships are a mirror of ourselves. What I'm really suggesting that we ponder here for a moment is that we tend to project how we see life into everything, including our relationships. If I may be so bold, disharmony within so often leads to disharmony without. If I'm upset with myself, if I have a lack of self-esteem, I somehow or another think I'm unworthy, I tend to see that same thing in others. Our relationships are a mirror. Now, this is tough talk for a lot of people because it ends up looking as if, oh, you're blaming me for all my relationship problems. This is not an issue of blame. It's an issue of understanding what many would call the childhood patterns. Well, I've written extensively about this, and it's no secret. I had a father who instilled in me some really difficult things that I continue to have to remind myself to work through. He was very demanding. He was profane many times, exceedingly critical, couldn't do anything right. And one of the things, whenever I'd do something wrong, one of the things that was said from early days on, and I still carry it. He said, "What are you, some sort of nincompoop?" Now, that's an old word, isn't it? What does it even mean? I'm not sure, but it isn't exactly something that is favorable. Even to this day, when I mess up, what tape do you suppose often is called up? "Greg, what are you, some sort of nincompoop?" Isn't that amazing? Something that was in my life from 4, 5, 6 years old and onward. And I have to watch myself very carefully. That whole issue of watching, are you saying those sort of things that are clearly not helpful at all? I learned anger as a young man, and I have to watch that. I have to be very careful. And over the years, I think I've improved in that. It is not that we are programmed forever in those things, but the fact is we have to be aware of those things. And when we are, we can change the nature of our relationships. So let me just kind of repeat this again, maybe some examples. In the world, maybe do we have a boss who seems, demanding and intolerant? Hear my heart. Gently look within and say, where might I be demanding and intolerant? Or do I hold this old belief that bosses are demanding and intolerant? Yeah. Gee, it's such a powerful tool when we try to understand and can see it through the eyes of our relationships being a mirror of ourselves. So maybe we're talking about a spouse or a lover or whatever sort of intimate relationship we may have. Well, the issue of, it's not going well. Oh, they just aggravate me. It's just I have no patience with some of that behavior. Stop. Could this be, just hold up the mirror. Could this be aspects of me or some of my beliefs? People have criticized me on this. They've said, well, Greg, you're asking us to just lay down and not be assertive in any way. That's not true at all. No, I'm asking us to raise our awareness. I'm asking us to be more aware and be smarter in our relationships, because when we do, here's the good part. We can actually choose the sort of relationships that we have. Now, my wife and I have been married we're about to celebrate 29 years of marriage. Linda deserves a medal, and I understand that. So 29 years of marriage. We were recently asked by a friend, well, what do you contribute your good relationship to? What do you consider the key? And I said, well, we made a vow early and we've kept it. We never go to bed mad. And so far, the longest we've been awake is 5 days. I kid my wife a lot. Linda likes to shop. And, there's a part of me that thinks, oh, here she is shopping again. I'm not sure this is a good thing. No, she's serious shopper. Shoes. She likes shoes. And matter of fact, she's, I better be careful here, shouldn't I? I'd just say that, you got to watch out when you receive a notice in the mail that American Express has enshrined your wife in their Hall of Fame. That's a signal you've got to watch for. I tease her about that. And at one time, I would get angry about that sort of thing. Thank goodness I've been able to hold the mirror up, examine my responses, and say, okay, is this just a reflection of me, and what indeed can I do about it? So my encouragement would simply be, hold that mirror up, not as criticism, but hold it up as a way to look at how we respond to one another. Our relationships can indeed be harmonious, if we will just work at that effort. We have with us today Mary Beth Backenstoes. She's a family therapist, 35 years in practice. You look so young. You don't look like you could possibly have been.
I'm just 40.
Mary Beth, to say harmony in relationships is one thing, but how do you develop harmony in relationships? What insights?
Well, that's a great question. I just want to start with saying I doubt that you've ever been up for 5 days. But at any rate, as a therapist, my phone does not ring in my office because people are getting along too well. It is always because whatever is going on in their lives has reached a point of discomfort, so they are wanting to bring in an outsider to assist them in lowering their discomfort or their anxiety or their stress or whatever word you want to put into that. And the job of the therapist is to do that, is to try to lower the anxiety for that individual, for that couple, for that family, and to do the best that you can as a therapist to open up the communication processes within that family. And then another point I want to make is that something that we have to accept is the fact that there is disharmony in relationships. And how do we deal with that disharmony? When two people decide to get married and spend the rest of their lives together, they have expectations of what that relationship is going to bring to their lives. And then after a brief period, a honeymoon phase, and then sometimes there's a brief period of conflict in the relationship, you will see one of the individuals in the marriage begin to adapt themselves to the stress that is in that marriage. And that person will subjugate their needs, their wants, their thoughts, their desires to the needs, wants, and thoughts of the other person. And that can appear to be a very harmonious marriage. And yet, over time, that individual, and I think you actually speak to that in part 4 of your book, that individual who does that over time, year after year, decade after decade, baby after baby, and frequently it is the woman in the marriage, but not always. Sometimes it's the husband that adapts himself to the needs and wants and desires of the wife.
Ends up, what, often resenting the whole thing and that. If I may, my wife, Linda, you did a marvelous job of controlling that whole issue when you supported me at the time I was, very, very sick. You talk about one key about, what is it, helping? Talk about this.
Helping the patient versus rescuing the patient. When we rescue someone, we are doing something for the patient that they are capable of doing themselves. The best example I can give is what I did to you, for you. When Greg got home from the hospital, he needed to take medication round the clock, so I took it upon myself to set my alarm on my side of the bed at 2 a.m. And I would get up, go to the kitchen, get a glass of water, and get his medication. In the meantime, Greg had gotten up, gone to the bathroom, and oftentimes we'd meet in the hallway. What was I doing? I was rescuing him. I was doing something for him that he was capable of doing himself.
I thought that was a pretty good deal.
Well, it was for a while, and I felt like I had good intentions. I thought, I'm being the dutiful wife. However, at about a week and a half, and I was tired, and I'd look at him in the hallway as we'd meet, and I'd think, how come this guy isn't getting his own medication? I was getting very resentful of him. And even though Greg said, yeah, I thought that was pretty good, he was looking at me and saying, how come she's treating me like a child? I'm not able to do this? I'm up anyway. And he began being resentful of me, and that can snowball. It can get bigger and bigger, and we caught it early.
And I would just add that it seems to me that, your mother had to take care of your father through a difficult, brittle diabetic thing, and you probably learned many of those lessons right there. It's those old childhood tapes, and to hold up the mirror, just as Linda did. Very powerful. And it also helped get me out of the victim role in that relationship. So here we are. We're talking about these ideas of opening up communication, recognizing that if there's these trade-offs in relationships, they can be dangerous. And then Linda's whole comment about, you can help without rescuing. It brings up some interesting questions in relationships. And I don't know if anybody here today has a question about relationships. Anybody care to... Hi, Victoria. Victoria, what is your question?
I was wondering how you go about recognizing repeating childhood patterns that you've developed.
What a good question. How do you recognize the childhood patterns and stop repeating them? Mary Beth, briefly, any idea there?
Well, there are childhood patterns that we all have deep within us that we do continually project onto our own lives, and it's actually called the multi-generational transmission process. And sometimes you can recognize that on your own, and you think, oh, my maternal grandmother said this to my mother, and now my mother is saying it to me, and now I'm saying it to my daughter. And if you recognize it and you can stop that behavior and begin to substitute another behavior in its place, that is the best way to do it. Sometimes you can do it on your own or with the help of a therapist or a good friend or anybody that will listen to you sort of process this sort of thing.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful. And really the idea, again, that's what I'm saying when we talk about holding up the mirror. It's just examining, why do I respond in this relationship that way? Let me add one other thing, and that would be, the universal need, want is love. And I would just say that the whole idea of, if you wish to be loved, be loving. I know that seems simple, and I'm not asking anybody to lay down and, allow any abuse of any kind. But the fact is, to be loved, be loving. It's such a profound lesson in life. And if you want to do an experiment, we worked with a gal who said, my mother and I always fought. I made a commitment that what I would do is just for one afternoon, I would be a loving daughter. And I would stop criticizing my mother all the time. She went on to say it absolutely was the turning point in their relationship. And although at the time we last talked to her, they weren't, best of buddies, they had found a workable relationship. It's really profound. Our relationships, they really do affect our health. They affect our lives. And yet we can do a great deal to mold those in the way that we would desire them, to have the sort of nurturing relationships that just lift us and never put us down. And so that's the lesson I want us to take away from this particular segment. Hold up the mirror, make the choice, and our relationships can turn around. So I thank you for being with us. If you want to learn more, look at the information, the toll-free number at the bottom of the screen. Contact us, and you too will be on your way to knowing that health is more than health care. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be with you.